I am a flight attendant. Last week, a passenger handed me a note that said help me during boarding. What happened next changed airline policy forever. The young woman wasn't being trafficked or abused as I initially feared. She was deaf, having a medical emergency, and couldn't communicate with us using the standard procedures we're trained for. I've been flying for 13 years with a major airline. You think you've seen everything: drunken passengers, medical emergencies, even a live turkey someone once tried to claim as an emotional support animal. But nothing prepared me for what happened on Flight 2187 from Chicago to Seattle last Tuesday. During boarding, a woman in her mid-20s handed me a folded napkin as she stepped onto the plane. She made brief eye contact, looked terrified, then quickly moved to her seat in row 17. When I unfolded the napkin, my heart stopped. In shaky handwriting, "Help me, can't breathe well, don't make scene." We're trained extensively for human trafficking situations, so my first thought was that she was being forced to travel against her will. I discreetly alerted the captain and my fellow crew members using our code phrase for potential trafficking. "We need a coffee refresh in the galley." My colleague Jenny positioned herself near row 17 while I notified airport security. That's when I noticed the woman's hands trembling as she tried to communicate with the passenger next to her. She was gesturing at her throat and chest, looking increasingly panicked. When Jenny approached to offer water, the woman pulled out her phone and typed, "Severe allergy, a peep in and bag but overhead bin full. Can't ask for help." Everything clicked. She wasn't being trafficked. She was having an allergic reaction and couldn't verbally call for assistance. The note wasn't about abduction. It was her only way to alert us without causing panic. We immediately retrieved her bag, administered her EpiPen, and diverted back to the gate for medical assistance. As paramedics took her off the plane, she handed me her phone with a new message typed out, "Sorry for scare. Most airlines ignore deaf passengers or talk over us. Dreading know how to get help." The flight departed 40 minutes late, but something much more significant happened as a result. When I filed my incident report, I included her feedback about deaf passengers being ignored. My supervisor asked me to meet with our accessibility team the following day. I described how our emergency procedures assume passengers can hear announcements and verbally respond to flight attendants. What if she hadn't been able to write that note? I asked. What if she'd been traveling alone and lost consciousness? 3 days later, our airline announced new training protocols for assisting deaf and hard of hearing passengers. We now ask during boarding if any passengers would prefer written communication in emergencies. We've created visual emergency cards and implemented a simple hand signal system that flight attendants and deaf passengers can use. Yesterday, I received an email from the passenger Sarah. She's a deaf rights advocate who travels frequently and has experienced medical issues on flights before. She wrote, "For years, I've been terrified of having an emergency on a plane where no one would understand me. What started as a frightening day ended up creating change that will help thousands of passengers like me." She's been invited to help develop our new accessibility training videos. The story has spread to other airlines, with 3 major carriers now reviewing their own protocols. It's easy to think we'd considered every emergency scenario in our training, but sometimes it takes a hastily scribbled note on a napkin to reveal the gaps in systems we thought were comprehensive. Next time you fly, you might notice new visual communication cards in the seat back pocket. They exist because one brave passenger dared to ask for help in the only way she could, and because someone listened. Sometimes the most important safety features aren't the ones we can see, but the ones that ensure everyone is seen.